Normally in games like Minecraft, you could do almost anything, because they're sandbox games are designed to be that way. Like in Minecraft, you could commit crimes like tax fraud or slave. But since this channel is mostly focused around hypixel Skyblock, I'm going to be focusing on that because there's more of a restriction on what you could do. Like, hypothetically speaking, how many war crimes could you commit in this MMO block game, aka Skyblock? I mean, this is just a game where you farm for hours just to see a number go up, so surely it's not a lot, right? Right? For this video format, I'll go over the list of war crimes that the UN has posted, and I'll go through each crime to see if you could commit it in Skyblock. And then at the end, we could tally how many we committed, or I guess how many the average player can commit. Before I get too far in the video, I would like to say that this video was inspired by Davey Gunface's video. Anyways, for this, we do have to come up with a bit of rules, I guess you could say. Because, I mean, the lore of this game is really simple, just wither bad and everything's in the sky. Like, I don't know how you could fit the entire catacombs inside the sky. Like, you're telling me that the French could fit 6 million people in 65 feet deep tunnels? And look at how much space the dungeons take up. I'm getting sidetracked, but the point is that the real world is different from the Skyblock world, and because of that, there has to be rules. Mostly that, and to make the video simpler. Doing anything in a private island is banned because it's too much like normal Minecraft. Every mob that is neutral counts as a civilian. Any hostile mob counts as a soldier. And for this, we're going to pretend like there's currently a war going on, and we're the one-man army. Plus, I won't be counting how many times you could commit a crime. It's just a simple, can you do this crime, yes or no. Like, I'm not going to count each time you could poison someone with a poison potion. And the final thing is that I'm going over war crimes that the UN has listed as war crimes on their website. So don't be mad if I don't mention anything about cluster bombs, because they don't mention it at all. And before we get any further, I should also mention that you could commit like 38 war crimes. And how this video works is that if you could do one of the examples that the UN has provided, it counts as committing a war crime. Anyways, with that, let's take off our hypothetical UN helmets and go over what I call, or what the UN calls, a list of war crimes. Number 1. Willful killing. This basically means that you need to have a good reason to kill someone, and most of the time, you kill things without reason. Now, I don't want to sound like a vegan or something, but you know how many sheep you could kill? Like, okay, if you wanted mutton from the sheep, okay, that makes sense. Maybe it'll slide. But you can't eat in this game. Anyways, crime 2 is torture or inhuman treatment, also including biological experiments. Now, I'm pretty sure you can't do any biological experiments. You can definitely torture people. I mean, Skyblock is already torture for the player, but you could literally burn people, aka torture them, for no reason at all. So even though we can't biologically experiment on people, we could still torture them, meaning that we have committed this crime. Number 3, willfully causing great suffering. This is a mixture of the first 2 crimes, and because of this, that means you could do this crime as well. For example, I could willfully poison a pigman with no good reason, just because I wanted to, and it counts. Number 4, extensive destruction and appropriation of property, not justified by military necessity, and of course carried out unlawfully and wantonly. Whatever that word is. Now with Skyblock, you can't really break anything. I mean, most of the blocks and resources just respawn after like a minute, and there's no real way to cause any permanent damage. Just kidding, because of course one of the main features of dungeons is that you could destroy almost anything. Well, as long as, like the bricks are cracked or something. Let me give you an example. You're doing a dungeon run and so far you have like an S+, you already blew up all the crypts you needed to get a good rank. But you just see one extra crypt just chilling and you blow it up. You didn't need to blow it up, yet you still did, and therefore it counts as a crime. Number 5, compelling a prisoner of war to serve in the forces of a hostile power. And I have one word for this, and that's necromancy. Even though the act of bringing the dead back to life isn't illegal in real life, it sure is legal in Skyblock, and it is still a crime. because you killed these soldiers or civilians or whoever soul you took, and you're forcing them to help you fight Endermen, meaning that DKMCC 123 is a war criminal. So not only is this morally questionable by raising the dead to help you fight, but also it's a crime. Number 6. Willfully depriving a prisoner of war the rights of a fair and regular trial. Now, in Skyblock, there isn't really any courts or judge systems, except for the admins, which are both judge and executioners, which didn't allow me to get a fair trial. Something just slipped down my throat. Meaning that if you could ban people in Skyblock without, a fair reason, then that means you just committed a war crime. But since only a dozen people can actually look at the bans and decide if it's fair or not, I'm not going to count this as a crime because most people cannot do this. Number 7. Unlawful deportation or transfer of unlawful confinement. Now, at first I thought this was going to be stuff like the transportation of illegal substances, which in this case could be duped items. But then I realized that they were talking about people, or I guess items, I'm not really too sure. And the last time I checked, transporting elephants is also illegal, or I guess villagers is also legal. Plus you can even transport people using the necromancer rings as well. So yes, you can commit this crime. Now, number 6 is the taking of hostages, and I have the most split opinion on this one. I guess you could, use necromancy to take people away. You could also use pets again, or I guess you could even scam players and I guess take their money hostage or something. But what makes a hostage is taking someone to fulfill a condition. Sure, you can take things, but Skyblock's not complex enough, that you'd get a reward out of it or something. You don't get gold if you, release souls that you captured through necromancy, So even though you could probably do this with other players, I'm just not going to count it because it's too complex, and you can't really do it in the base game. If Skyblock had no players whatsoever, that means you couldn't really do it, which is why I'm not counting it. Anyways, that was the first article of the Geneva Convention. Now, I'm not ending the video, but I should just mention that so far, out of the 8 possible crimes that you could commit 6 of them, which means that you could commit 80% of these crimes. I didn't really need to mention this, but I just felt like I should, just to give you an understanding of how many things you can actually commit in this game. Also, since it's been 7 minutes in the video so far, if you're still watching, it would be appreciated if you subscribed or liked the video. You don't have to, of course, but I just felt like I should mention it if you want to support the channel. Anyways, crime number 9 is intentionally directing attacks against individual civilians, not taking direct part in hostilities. I don't know why that was so hard for me to say, but in this game, you could literally murder a bunch of innocent puppies, and with it comes with innocent civilians, so yes, you can commit this crime. Of course, using the example of puppies, Number 10, intentionally directing attacks against civilian objects, that is, objects which are not military objectives. Which means basically, don't destroy any civilian objects that have nothing to do with the military. And of course, in dungeons, you could break both crypts and walls, which I guess don't really have anything to do with the military. Personally, I count crypt ghouls as civilians because you don't really get to fight them unless if you break their houses or I guess crypts. And even if you don't count them as civilians, you could still break down random walls. Would you really count a wall as a military objective? Probably not, meaning that you can commit this crime. So for crime 11, we have all this text, which I'm not even going to bother to read. And I'm here to explain that if we come up against a crime that's a repeat or really specific, then I'm just not going to mention it in the video. Because I'm in the beginning of page 3 of the script, and already it's been 9 minutes. I have 5 pages of the script. So yeah, don't be surprised when I go to crime 12 to crime 17 all of a sudden. And speaking of crime 12, we have crime 12. Intentionally launching an attack in the knowledge that such attack will cause incidental loss of life or injury to civilians or damage to civilian objects or widespread long-term and severe damage to the natural environment. Now at first, I wasn't going to count this as a crime because I thought it was way too specific for Skyblock and that you couldn't really do it. With the only person I know of actually doing this is probably Dante. I mean, the Colosseum is still slimed after almost a year. But then I remembered you could definitely kill a bunch of people and have the knowledge that that will kill a bunch of people. For example, if you decide, just to get a flower of truth and just murder a bunch of people, like, that doing this will kill a bunch of people, yet you still did it, meaning that it's a crime. That is assuming that you were trying to attack something and, civilians were in the crossfire. Still, I'm counting it as a crime though. 17. Intentionally directing attacks against buildings dedicated to religion, education, art, science, or charitable purposes, and also historic monuments. And because there's no religion, or I don't think so, in this game, or education, or art, well, marina art exists, but you can't really destroy that. Basically what I'm saying is that a bunch of these things aren't in the game, except for historic monuments, and the one I will be mentioning is actually King Midas's tomb. Now, in case you're unaware what the origin story of this popular sword, or I guess Fortnite skin is, it's like a story based off of a guy who touches stuff and it becomes gold. But this story was based off of a king in the late 8th century BC, meaning that his tomb is almost 3,000 years old. And even if we were going to go off Skyblock years, which would be like year 110, it would still be around 900 years old, which is still a historic monument. And last time I checked, the pyramids, which are glorified tombs, are also historic monuments. Actually, you could take a stretch and say that the whole entire catacombs is a historic monument. Like, they're old, and also it's a big, giant underground area filled with, of course, a bunch of dead people. Like, if you were in an army, you wouldn't really attack a gravesite, you wouldn't be blowing up a bunch of stuff like King Midas's tomb. Therefore, I am counting this one as a crime they could do in Skyblock. Crime 18 is kinda confusing, so please bear with me. Killing or wounding treacherously individuals belonging to the hostile nation or army. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what this means. It could be like, don't kill innocent civilians that belong to a hostile nation. It could mean don't kill people who are betraying their nation. I'm really just not too sure. If it's the innocent civilian one, I've said before how many times you could do that, which is a lot. And if it's the betray one, you could always have a skeleton fire into another skeleton, and I guess that would be betrayal of some kind. Because the word treacherously means that it's someone ready to betray someone's trust. But I'm still going to count this as a crime because you could probably do it. I'm just not sure what that crime is. If you don't want to count it, that's okay, but I'm still going to count it just because it'll make the video simple. Number 19, declaring that no quarter will be given. From what I heard, no quarter basically means no mercy. So like, if you've seen that troops surrendered and you kill them, that would be counting as no quarter. And luckily for us, there is a mob that actually surrenders after a while. Wolves can actually just not attack you if you just don't attack them after a little bit of time, basically surrendering themselves. And being the war criminal you are, you could kill said wolves that have surrendered and commit another crime. So I'm adding it to the crime tally, or whatever I called it. Number 20, destroying or seizing the enemy's property, and this is easy because you could kaboom stuff and steal items in dungeons. And you get so many random items, in fact, that they give you a whole entire bag to carry said miscellaneous items. So although this was a quick one, yes, you can commit this crime because you stole from a bunch of civilians. I'm talking things like dumbbells, medicine, just a bunch of important stuff, all stolen. 23, pillaging a town or place even when taken by assault. Now, I could use the same example from the last crime, but I'll also remind you that you could, pillage all the crops from the hub, or even steal a bunch of netherwort which is guarded by skeletons. So yes, you can commit this crime. And for crime number 24 and 25, I'm just going to include them together because of how similar they are. Employing poison or poison weapons with employing officiating, poisonous, or other gases. So let's kill two birds with one stone and just use toxicology, aka poison potions, and just poison a bunch of, what should we do this time? Let's poison a bunch of rabbits, it just seems fair. Number 26, employing bullets which expand or flatten easily in the human body, such as bullets of a hard envelope. Okay, already, I'm not counting this because when someone dies, it just becomes dust. You don't really see the human body or anybody's whatsoever. So yeah, we aren't doing this one. Number 28, committing outrages upon personal dignity. Now, end game, the closest thing I could see you doing of like embarrassing someone is just beating the professor. Because at the end, Necron gets mad. He's like, "Oh, I sure hope my boss doesn't see this," and that happens. But that's not really embarrassing. Well, like, it's embarrassing that he lost, but did he lose dignity? Probably not, considering that he's dead. The professor really died? No dignity. But yeah, we aren't counting this one. Number 33, conspiring or enlisting children under the age of 15 years into the National Armed Forces. Because I am 14 years of age, I am committing this crime because, as I said, I am a one-man army and I'm killing all these people, which is illegal, aka a war crime. But the thing is, you aren't committing the war crime, it's the people who recruited you. But as a Skyblock player, you could recruit a baby Yeti to fight alongside you, in which in the name literally includes baby, and I'm pretty sure a baby would be under 15 years of age, meaning that yes, you can recruit people who are under 15 into the army, and this is a crime. Now for number 34, it's kind of weird because it has to do with civilians and not really soldiers, but here it is. Violence to life and person, in particular murders of all kinds. And as I said before, I think that the crypt ghouls are civilians and you can obviously murder them. There's small little things that believe me that they're civilians. First of all, the rules literally say that they're neutral, like if you don't blow up their houses, they won't attack you. And also, they have less HP than most soldiers do. But if that won't work, you could just kill a bunch of farm animals and you could still commit this crime. Meaning that you can commit this crime. Anyways, number 36 is the taking of hostages against civilians, and as I said, you can't take hostages, so it's going to be an easy no. And those are all the crimes listed on the UN's website. I did mention earlier that I did skip a few of them, which are like an obvious no. But this is still surprisingly a lot of crimes. So out of the 38 available war crimes that you can commit in general, in Skyblock, you could commit 18 out of the 38 crimes. Which, mind you, is just under half of all the crimes. And this is a game where, you break a bunch of trees down just to see a number go up, And you could still use like morally wrong things, like you could use someone as a human shield, you could use excessive force, like you could literally like explode people into bits, which you could easily, kill with your fist. Anyways, if you feel like I should have included a crime, just let me know in the comments and I'll try to put most of them in the pinned comment. Anyways, I think the UN is after me, so I'll see you guys soon. Also known as a month.